BYD are still one of the newbies to the UK car market, but despite that, they are on their way to becoming a household name. And with cars like this, the BYD Dolphin Surf, I feel like it won't be long till BYD cars dominate the UK roads. To put it into perspective, BYD have completely dominated the Chinese EV market. Think peak Tesla domination, and after just 2 years in the UK car market, they have already received a substantial market share. And at the start of 2025, they sold more cars than the entirety of 2024. So they must be doing something right. And that something right is on full display in the Dolphin Surf, because it enters the UK electric car market by being one of the most affordable. Now, that crown currently goes to the Dacia Spring, but that rather lacks in design, performance and what it offers you. This, on the other hand, is only £4,000 more expensive than the Dacia Spring, when plenty of features come in as standard. In terms of affordable EVs, this might just hit the biscuit. And to compare that entry-level price point to other cheap EVs on the UK car market, Citroën EC3, pretty much the same price, Renault 5, just over 22,000, and the Hyundai Insta, even more. So price point is excellent. And that excellence is portrayed by BYD's innovative and signature Blade battery, one of the most safest, durable and thinnest EV batteries on the car market. It's even thinner than a can of Coke. And with the Dolphin Surf housing that Blade battery, it means you get an electric mile range of up to 200 miles. Now, that's not one of the most spectacular mile ranges on the UK car market. It's certainly not going to win any awards in that area. But for the size and price point of this car, I think it's fair game. Now, if you compare it to the likes of the Renault 5, around about £23,000, that has an entry mile range of 193 miles. But here's the thing, that's the base spec. A top spec one of these costs only £1,000 more, which certainly means you get more for your money with the Dolphin Surf. I feel like BYD have really hit the nail on the head and almost hit that sweet spot when appealing to buyers of affordable EVs, because 23 grand for a top spec electric vehicle is not only unheard of, but it's mightily impressive. The fact that houses luxuries like heated seats, 360 parking cameras. However, all models, even the base spec Dolphin Surf, will come with lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control, multiple driving modes, keyless entry, and BYD signature rotating touchscreen. Suave. As for design, well, it's interesting for the fact that it takes the existing BYD Dolphin, wax Surf on the end, and you get a completely new car in its look. The BYD Dolphin looks like a cutesy city car, very modern looking EV, whereas this has a bit of sporty edge, looks a bit fierce, almost could say hot hatch. Now, it's not a hot hatch, its performance certainly isn't, and I think it'd be offensive to the hot hatch of the world to call the Surf that. But the way the LED headlights really pointed edges into that centre, and different segments on the front bumper, yes, it might be plastic, but I don't think it's just thrown there as a means to an end and to cut cost. I still think it ties in that front bumper design well, and I think it's quite hard to whack plastic on the front of a car and it actually to look smart. But BYD have managed that, showing their innovation. And looking at it, you wouldn't think that this is one of the most affordable EVs on the market. You look at the Dacia Spring, the current cheapest electric vehicle in the UK, and I think you can tell, looking at the Dacia Spring compared to this. This certainly looks more expensive, which is always a bonus if your neighbours are twitching at the curtains and looking at your new car thinking, hey, have they afforded that? Well, secrets between you and me. The interior look also reflects that fairly sporty prowess of the Dolphin Surf. The different segments on the dashboard, this floating centre module, them bucket racing style seats, so you will, with vegan leather coming from standard. It all just feels rather premium, and the fact is, this look you will get across the range. 18 off grand for an EV which looks like this, that's a bargain. Now, as for tech, mentions that you get plenty from that base spec, including something that I just love, the rotating infotainment screen, 10.5 inches, come in with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as standard. You get a fairly simple digital dash, but it houses everything you need to, and I feel like there's got to be some compromise in terms of the Dolphin Surf. It's a really bargain EV that comes with plenty of features, so having a fairly simple digital dash I don't think takes away from the actual experience of this car. Top spec model will get a wireless phone charging pad, which is perfectly angled in that center console. If you don't go for the top spec, then it'll just still be a nice place to store your phone, and you do get a USB and USB-C port in the front. You get 2 cup holders and a nice deep pocket under here. They've really utilised the space well, because rather than having a pocket under here that you normally would expect in the car, you have it in the centre, and I think that's perfectly apt. Leather wrapped steering wheel with all your controls for your lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control, again coming from standard. But I just think all the different segments, the way it all kind of does this, it all goes shoom at the edges, makes a rather sleek design. The automatic gear selector again has been housed brilliantly because it's in your dashboard rather than taking up space in the centre. It's here, and ultimately all you need is a little switch. So again, perfectly straightforward. Again, the drive mode selector is housed on your dashboard along with your shortcuts to your climate control settings, also been changed in the infotainment screen along with your heated seats coming from that top spec. Overall, I'm just almost amazed that a new brand has come to the UK and almost swept us off our feet. 18.5 grand for an EV like this, even top spec 24 grand. Dare I say again, bargain. As for the rear seats then, and I feel like it's almost what you'd expect for a car of this size. It's not the most spacious, so I wouldn't necessarily say this is the perfect family car. It'd be great to have a second car alongside a family SUV, because you do get ISOFIX points in the back, and there's a decent amount of legroom. The kids in the back would still be comfortable, but it could be a little cramped. And the fact that there is actually no middle seat. It's only a 4-seater car. So even though it's completely flat floor, which means a middle person could fit comfortably in here, it's not technically a middle seat because there's only 2 seat belts in the back, so not the most practical if you have 3 kids. As I said, if you just nip into the shops and want to throw 1 or 2 kids in the back, yeah, by all means do that. It's still spacious, still shares the same style as the front, decent amount of storage, and with that rear privacy glass, it is a fairly comfortable place to be. It's just a little snug, but I think you'd be expecting that.
This compact EV might be small in price and stature, but it has a lot to give. Up to 308 litres of boot capacity, again outshining its rivals. It sits on BYD's E-Platform 3, providing a safe body structure when out on the road.
Now, it's all well and good having a good looking, affordable EV with all the gimmicks, but how does it actually drive? Well, it's still just as impressive. Now, the Surf might not be hot hatch quick, but it also isn't granny car slow, with a top 0 to 60 time of around about 8 seconds. Now that comes with a top spec with that bigger battery, housing a 200-mile electric range. Opt for the base spec and you are going to get a fairly measly 137 miles. However, 18.5 grand to have an EV with all the gimmicks, as I said, adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist. 137 miles might not be the end of the world, because if you're just using it as a cheap runabout, then it's perfect. BYD cars come with 7 years warranty. So you're going to have 7 years of peace of mind in a car that looks this good. But with them smaller batteries, the 30 kilowatt hour, then you are going to get a slightly reduced 0 to 60 time between 11 and 12 seconds depending on which spec you get. So in that area, it's nothing to write home about. It's nothing mind-blowing, and it's kind of middle of the road. But for the bigger battery, 0 to 60 of 8 seconds, and it has some pretty good pull off the line. With the size and weight of this car and the fact that it's an EV, so you get that instant torque, then it feels quicker than it actually is. Getting to 30, 40 miles an hour is an absolute doddle in Dolphin Surf. It doesn't feel sluggish in any sense of the word. As for the actual driving experience, and it feels well built, it feels controlled. You have multiple driving modes, and if you put it into sport, then it does feel pretty nippy, and you can certainly have a lot of fun. But I think the key selling point of the Dolphin Surf is all them gimmicks that you get from standard. I just think, who can really argue that you get that for 18.5 grand? It's just something that the UK car market hasn't seen, and that is so simple, yet so effective. I just think everything's been thought out, even like your drive mode selector and your gear selector in that center console. It just makes sense to have it there, because it's not taking any space up in that center console. It means you get more storage. It still looks good on the dashboard and gives it a bit of quirk in that area. And all your controls for adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, and also to move your screen, all housed on your steering wheel. You have 4G connection, you have voice control, all from the base spec. It's just a bargain. I just think this is the type of car that you're not going to get bored of. It has a bit of quirk about it. It's pretty fun to drive. It feels dead light, nimble. If you're just doing around town driving and you opt for that base spec, and your bank account will be thanking you. Because 18.5 grand for a brand new car, it's a steal. I keep saying it, I keep saying it's an absolute bargain, but it is. 18.5 grand. And I just wish more car manufacturers start following in the footsteps of BYD by not compromising your driving experience by making a pretty naff base spec. A lot of the BYD range, the only difference between the specs comes in the battery size, its mile range and its performance. And I think that's what it should be, especially when it comes to electric cars. You should be paying for a heightened performance, you should be paying for more mile range depending on your driving needs. You shouldn't be paying for having heated seats and parking cameras and almost necessities in this day and age. So bravo BYD, you're doing something right. That sounded really patronising. I didn't mean it in that way because they're doing a lot of things right. I'm just right. I'll stop talking, digging myself a hole. BYD, excellent.